What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another video, and today we are finally taking a look at the Ultraview Slider site. This site's been available for a couple months. I did get my hands on this site at the tail end of September, but before I did this review and before I let you guys know what I thought about the site, I wanted to really test it out and see how it was going to hold up throughout the hunting season. Like I said, I've been exclusively running this site since the Michigan opener here in October. I've ran the site in Michigan, I ran it in Indiana, and keep in mind, all of my hunts primarily are run and gun style. So I'm doing mobile hunts. A lot of times I'm going into new tracts of land, breaking brush. I'm very hard on my gear, especially my bows and my sights. So like I said, it really gave me the opportunity to test this thing out. Now, what I will say is ever since I set this site up, or since I initially sighted it in, I've never had to go back throughout the season and make any fine-tune adjustments to make sure that this thing was hitting true at 20, 30, and 40. So I was actually very surprised with the overall durability of this site. Now, just like all of our videos, we will go over the specifications. I will talk about the features. I will also talk about what I do not like about the UV slider, and I will also give you guys my overall thoughts and opinions on if I feel like this site is worth it. It is a very expensive site. It's by far the most expensive site that I own. But like I said, we'll cover all of that in detail in this video. Now, starting with the specifications, obviously the UV slider is a high-end site. It is going to give you the ability to micro adjust the first, second, and third axis. You do not have micro adjust on your elevation. You're actually going to have to use your slider wheel to get your 20-yard pin sighted in, and we'll talk about that a little bit more through the sighting process. You do have micro adjustability on the windage, and then you also have multiple mounting hole locations for the scope housing itself. So once you get this thing set up on your bow, you'll be able to play around with that position to make sure that it's set up properly for you, and to also ensure that you're getting the most amount of arrow clearance that you can. Now, this site is constructed of 70-75 aluminum, which makes this site actually unique because most of the sites that are available on the market are constructed of 60-61 aluminum. Now, there is a lot of benefit with the 70-75 aluminum because it does score higher in a strength to weight ratio, meaning that you're getting a lighter sight that is durable. It also scores higher in a fatigue test, adding to that durability that you can expect to receive on a high-end site. And then also 70-75 aluminum scores higher in a Burnell test, which basically tests how much force it takes to penetrate that metal. So what that translates to you, or for you as a consumer, is it's going to be a lot harder for you to scratch or add any type of imperfections when you're locking this sight down with the set screw on a side mount or in a bridge lock. So now the only downside to 70-75 is on average it's 25% higher in cost, which obviously does add to the overall price of the scope. Now, as far as the scope housing goes, this is coming standard with the Ultraview UV3 XL, which is their new version of their scope. It is a 3-pin horizontal with 1 bonus pin on the bottom. The middle pin is stationary, as well as the bonus pin on the bottom. All of those pins are a 15,000. So from an accuracy standpoint, you know, it is a small pin. You can get very dialed in with those. But if you're someone who struggles in low light situation, or if you had bad eyes, obviously you may run into an issue where you struggle to see those pins in low lights. Obviously, Ultraview does come with a built-in light kit. So if your state allows it, you'll have the ability to just quickly turn that on. I love their light kit. I feel like they do a better job than anyone on the market. You'll have the ability to obviously turn it on, dim it, brighten it. You can change to having the pins lit up, and then also illuminating the bubble level. You cannot illuminate the bubble level. So you definitely have a lot of options with that light configuration. And then obviously, if your state doesn't allow electronics on your scope housing, you can remove it and add a sight light cover to it. Now, in addition to that, obviously, this is a slider sight, so for those that like to shoot long distance, you're really going to have that ability to, and they do have sight tapes that stretch all the way out to 140 yards. Now, the UV slider is going to be offered in a couple different configurations. From a mounting standpoint, though, it's only going to be offered in a dovetail or a Picatinny mount. They don't offer your traditional direct mount like you see on Black Gold, Spot Hog, HHA, but when you go to buy their dovetail version, you'll have 2 different options that you can pick from. You can pick from their bridge lock, which will not come with a traditional dovetail side plate, or you have their side mount that you can pick up. Next, let's talk about the features of the sight and what you can expect if you decide to pick one of these up. Now, as far as the features go, this sight is packed with them. So I'm gonna start from top to bottom, and top being what I feel like is gonna bring you the most benefit as a consumer. And I'm gonna try to cover all of it, but the reality is there's a lot going on with this sight. Now, the first feature that I feel like is probably one of the best is just the overall layout of this sight. From an ergonomic standpoint, I feel like Ultraview spent a lot of time in the thought process and in the layout and in the design. They absolutely nailed this sight configuration and the way that it operates. It is truly a seamless operation when you go to slide and unlock and move this slider wheel. Like, if you compare this to some of the other sights that are available on the market, either the lock is located on the side of the roller wheel, it's located on the bottom of the sight rail, sometimes it's even located on the opposite side of the roller wheel, and all those options require you to actually take your hand off of the roller wheel to make some type of adjustment, whereas, like I said, the UV slider, it's just seamless, man, and they did a fantastic job on this. So I absolutely love the layout on this. And adding to the layout, and this is one thing that I've talked about before in the past, is just having a toolless method when it comes to adjustability when you're sighting in. Obviously, with the elevation, you're just going to utilize the slide rail. But when it comes to the windage, there's this knob that's right here on the right. You just pull it out, and if you move it to the right, it shifts the scope housing to the right. If you move it to the left, it shifts it to the left. So like I said, a very well thought out sight. Now, the next feature that I feel like brings you a lot of benefit is the zero play in the roller wheel. And they're kind of advertising it in a sense that you have super high tolerances in these gear. And that is great, because that's something that I do expect when dealing with a high-end sight. But from a consumer standpoint, those tighter tolerances also add to the ability for you to swoop through the entire range of that sight. And then the nicest thing about it is a very small amount of movement on that roller wheel actually equates to a very decent amount of distance traveled on your sight tape. So that's going to allow you to have longer sight tapes, it's going to allow you to shoot farther, and it's going to allow you to have more arrow clearance. So like I said, it is a really nice feature of this sight. Now, in addition to that, the ability to remove the scope housing completely from the slide rail is another feature that I feel like a lot of people kind of overlook with this sight. Obviously, if you're doing a destination hunt, it's extremely beneficial because you can put this in your backpack or somewhere safe where it's not going to get bumped around. You don't have to actually leave it on your bow. But for me, the biggest benefit, and we've talked about this before on some of our other sight reviews, is when you have exposed gears on a sight, it opens you up to get dirt, debris in there, and being able to quickly remove it out in the field will give you the ability to kind of clean those out, just to ensure that your sight's going to operate perfectly every time when you actually need it to. So like I said, awesome feature, very unique offering from the UV slider or from Ultraview. Another benefit that I really like about a lot of the Ultraview products is the ability to customize these through the various accessories that they offer. With this sight, you'll be able to transition from their large scope housing to their small scope housing. You can also transition the pin orientation or the pin configuration. So you can go from their standard, their 3-pin horizontal, you could go to a double pin vertical, you could go to a single pin vertical, you can go to a single dot sight, you can add lenses. We already talked about adding and removing the light. So there's a lot of different configurations that you can set this thing up in. So it really is like a do-all sight. You buy one sight and you can have multiple different configurations or set it up for multiple different applications, from hunting, from 3D archery, all the way to target archery. And a lot of the accessories you can purchase at a pretty reasonable price. All of their additional pin setups are roughly about in that $40, $50 range. Now, their lenses are a little bit more on the expensive side, but from what I've seen out in the archery industry, they're in line with some of the other manufacturers in regards to that. Now, another feature that I want to talk about, and this is new on the UV XL, is just this removable Viz ring that they added to the sight this year. If you've ran UV sights before in the past, obviously that was not available. Now, I have their smaller sight, and what I had to do to basically have a good reference point for my peep was add a bonus ring on the top, which is just a green silicone ring, and that allowed me allowed me to line up my peep better than using the inside rubber O-ring that came with this. Now obviously there are other manufacturers or other companies that offer side accessories that they were basically 3D printing that would go over there that would also give you that ring. But like I said, it's super nice that Ultraview now includes that. This is something that is available in multiple different colors. It'll come standard as white, but you could go on there and buy some different accessories if you wanted to color match it to your bow, or if there's a color option that suits your eye better. White for me has actually been doing a really good job. Definitely in low light. I started using white when I was trying the dialed sight out, and I really liked it. Like I said, it was just a lot easier for my eye to kind of focus on that and align my peep. So that's another feature that I really like with the new UV 3XL scope. Now we already briefly talked about the light that is built into the UV scope housing, but like I said, this is by far the best light design that I've ever ran on any type of scope. I love the fact that it's integrated into the scope housing already. I love the fact that you can pull it off and you can remove it, and I love the fact that there's a ton of adjustability as far as the brightness. Now one thing that this light kit offers that most light kits don't offer is there's an auto shut off. So if you turn this thing on and you forget to shut it off while you're out shooting or you're in a hunting situation, it's just going to automatically shut off for you. So it's going to help kind of preserve that battery life. I feel like that's a feature. It's been around for a while, but I feel like it's a feature that a lot of people overlook when they're looking at the light kit on the UV scopes. Now the next thing that I want to quickly talk about is just the overall sighting process, because when I got the sight there, I was a little confused on how you went about this. So I just want to briefly touch on it. So obviously when you get your sight, you're going to set it up on your bow, and the first thing that you need to do is you need to figure out where your 20-yard pin is hitting. Now again, you don't have micro adjust on your elevation, so you will have to utilize your slider, but you're going to use your middle pin when you're trying to find your 20-yard mark. Now once you've found that, you're going to take the calibration tape, put it on the side, and then line up the 20-yard line with that needle or that pin indicator, and then you're basically set and you're clear to go out and sight into 60 yards. Now when you sight in at 60 yards, you're going to continue to use that middle pin. Once you find 60, then you're going to basically go back and reference the sight tapes. Now for me, it was sight tape number 14. Now the good thing about this is you can lock this down, go home, get sight tape number 14, pull it out, line it up or put it on your sight, and then just line that 60-yard mark up with your middle pin. Now once you've done that, you can go ahead and roll back up, and that pin, that middle pin indicator you're gonna return that to the 30-yard mark, and then from there you're gonna adjust your top pin to 20, your bottom pin to 40, and your indicator pins are now lined up. Now as far as the scope housing goes, what's really unique about this setup is you don't have to actually go and shoot those adjustable pins in. You can remove these pins from the scope housing, line them up on your sight tape, and then make your adjustment. Now in the beginning, when I first did this, I was a little leery at how accurate this was going to be, but I did it, and I did not have to go and shoot those pins in. Once I set them up based off the sight tape, they were spot on. So it's a process that works and works really well. Obviously Ultraview has tested this out, and like I said, I was very surprised by that. Now one thing I will mention is when you are adjusting that top and bottom pin, there are springs in there, so those pins are under tension. So when you're getting them in position, you do need to hold them in place. If you let go, they will return to the home position. So like I said, just make sure you hold them in place, get them in position, and then go ahead and lock them down, and you'll be good to go. Now once you do that, you're basically sighted in and you're ready to rock with your UV sliders. Now the next thing that I want to talk about is what I would like to see from Ultraview going forward on a UV slider or as a purchase option later down the road. And the first one is just these sight tape side plates. I would like to be able to purchase these little plates separately, like get a package of 5 or 6. What that'll give you the ability to do is just transition between multiple arrows without having to peel off these sight tapes and buy multiple sight packages. So if you could buy those, and then like I said, it gives you the ability to kind of play around with different arrow configurations. Now the only other thing that I would like to see happen with the Ultraview, and this could be a design change or it could be an accessory, but for me personally, I like to run all my slider sights at the very top, and that would be my 20-yard mark or my 0, right? But with my particular setup, I'm not at the top range, so I do have to slide down a little bit to hit 20. If I slide all the way to the top, then I have no sight tape. So what I would like to see is, like I said, either the ability to micro adjust the elevation on that scope housing so I can run this at the top of the slide rail for my 0, or get some type of slide rail stop that I could snap on here and would prevent it from going the full range. Now, I'm not exactly sure how they do that. I know Black Gold, or actually Spot Hog, I know they offer a slide rail lock, so if you're not utilizing the full range, you still have that 0 stop. So if you go to make an adjustment in the dark, you know once you hit that top of the range, your pins are redialed back in and you don't actually have to look to ensure that you're back at your home base. So like I said, just a couple things that I would like to see going forward in the future. Now next, let's talk about what I don't like about the UV slider. Now, as I already told you guys, I've been running this sight hard since October 1st. I've taken it to Michigan, I've taken it to Indiana. I'm extremely hard on my equipment. I was very impressed with the overall durability, but what I really don't like about the UV slider is absolutely nothing, man. Like, this sight is probably by far one of the nicest sights that I've ever had the privilege of testing out. And this sight is bulletproof. This sight has done well throughout the season. Like I said, I have not had to make any adjustments. It has stood up to everything that I've thrown at it. They did a fantastic job with the layout, with the ergonomics. This whole sight just makes sense. It looks great. It feels great. It's super light, definitely when compared to some of the other sights that are available on the market that are similar in size, like the Spot Hog. And then, like I said, the fact that you have the ability to customize this for any type of configuration that you want, they absolutely knocked this thing out of the park. It is an expensive sight. I can't argue that. It is by far the most expensive sight that I own. However, if you are in the market and you can afford a UV slider, I would definitely recommend that you guys pick one up, test it out. And like I said, it is absolutely a fantastic sight. Now, hopefully I covered all your guys' questions in this video. I've been getting a lot of people messaging me on what I think about the UV slider, if I've ran the UV slider. Obviously, I've been posting pictures on Instagram since I received it, but like I said, I hope that I answered all your guys' questions. If I didn't, you can always leave me a comment below. You can always reach out to me directly on Instagram. I'm happy to help in any way. If you guys have not subscribed to the channel, please do so. Your guys' support greatly helps us out, keeps us doing what we're doing. And until next time, stay safe, stay healthy. We'll see you guys on the next one.